Before we begin our journey into the hallowed halls of the Vatican, I would kindly ask you to subscribe to the channel. Doing so ensures you won't miss our future explorations into the intricate tapestries of history and power. It is a small gesture, but one that allows us to continue bringing these remarkable stories to you. Today we turn our gaze towards a moment of profound change, the very first actions of a newly elected pontiff, Pope Leo XIV. In the quiet moments following the white smoke, a new era begins. Not with a grand proclamation, but with quiet, deliberate choices. We are about to witness the unveiling of the 5 key individuals Pope Leo XIV appointed in the immediate aftermath of his ascension. These are not merely names on a list. They are the pillars upon which his entire papacy would be built. Each appointment is a signal, a declaration of intent, revealing the direction and the very soul of his leadership. From the corridors of international diplomacy to the sacred duty of charity, these choices would ripple outwards, shaping the course of the Holy See for years to come. Join me now as we step behind the gilded doors and into the private studies of the Apostolic Palace. We will not just list these appointments, we will seek to understand them. Through vivid and realistic detail, we will explore the immense weight of these decisions, the character of the men chosen, and the profound implications of their new roles. We will observe as if we were there, the complex ecosystem of the Vatican at this pivotal moment of transition, a world where tradition and the future hang in a delicate, fascinating balance. The first and perhaps most critical appointment for any new pontiff is that of the Cardinal Secretary of State. This is the Pope's Prime Minister, his chief diplomat, his most trusted confidant in the often turbulent waters of global politics. For this monumental task, Pope Leo XIV looked to Cardinal Pietro Bellini, a man whose quiet demeanor concealed a mind of formidable intellect and strategic prowess. We can imagine the scene. The Pope, still adjusting to the weight of his new vestments, summons Bellini not to a grand hall but to his private wood-panelled study, the air thick with the scent of old books and beeswax. It is here, away from the pageantry, that the true work begins. Bellini, with his silver hair and eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of governments, was a veteran of the Vatican's diplomatic corps. He had served in some of the world's most challenging outposts, from the tense political climates of Eastern Europe to the delicate interfaith dialogues in the Middle East. He understood that the Church was not an island. It was a global entity whose voice had to be heard in the cacophony of international relations. Pope Leo XIV, in choosing Bellini, was not selecting a mere administrator. He was choosing a partner, a man who could navigate the intricate dance of diplomacy with grace and unwavering resolve, ensuring the Holy See's moral authority remained a powerful force on the world stage. The Pope would have spoken at length, not of decrees, but of a vision, a world where the Church championed peace, defended the displaced, and spoke truth to power. Bellini would have listened intently, his gaze steady, understanding the unspoken complexities of the charge. This appointment was a signal to every embassy and every chancellery around the globe. It declared that the papacy of Leo XIV would be one of engagement, of dialogue, and of an unyielding commitment to shaping a more just and compassionate world. The first stone of the new pontificate had been laid, and it was one of profound global significance. If the Secretary of State looks outward to the world, the Prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith looks inward to the very heart of the Church's beliefs. This is the guardian of 2 millennia of theology, tradition, and teaching. It is a role that demands not only immense intellectual rigor, but also a deep pastoral sensitivity. For this sacred trust, Pope Leo XIV chose Cardinal Karl Richter, a German theologian known affectionately and sometimes fearfully as the librarian for his encyclopedic knowledge of Scripture and church history. His appointment was a statement about the importance of clarity and continuity in an age of shifting ideologies. We can picture Richter in his office, surrounded by towering shelves of leather-bound volumes, the accumulated wisdom of centuries at his fingertips. His task was not to innovate for the sake of novelty, but to safeguard, interpret, and articulate the faith for a new generation. Pope Leo XIV would have sought a man who understood that doctrine is not a rigid, lifeless set of rules, but a living stream of truth that must be protected from pollution. Richter was precisely that man, one who could distinguish between authentic development and a departure from essential truths. He was a bulwark against the tides of relativism. The conversations between the Pope and his new prefect would have been deep and nuanced, exploring the challenges of secularism, the complexities of bioethics, and the need for clear catechesis for the faithful. Richter's appointment reassured those who feared the Church might lose its theological moorings. It signaled that under Pope Leo XIV, the teachings of the Church would be championed with intellectual confidence and unwavering conviction. He was to be the anchor, ensuring that as the bark of Peter navigated the stormy seas of the modern world, it would never be set adrift from its foundational truths. Upon the death of a pope, it is the Camerlengo who governs the Vatican, sealing the papal apartments and managing the temporal affairs of the Holy See until a successor is elected. But, the role extends far beyond this interregnum. The Camerlengo is the chief steward of the Vatican's vast material resources, a position requiring unimpeachable integrity and administrative acumen. Pope Leo XIV's choice was Cardinal Antonio Falcone, a man who had spent his life not in theology or diplomacy, but in the practical administration of dioceses. He understood budgets, logistics, and the immense responsibility of managing the patrimony of the Church. The role of Camerlengo is one of profound trust. He is the guardian of the temporal goods that allow the Church to carry out its spiritual mission, from funding embassies and maintaining historic basilicas to supporting missions in the developing world. Pope Leo XIV, in selecting Falcone, was sending a clear message about transparency and responsible stewardship. We can envision their first meeting, a discussion filled not with Latin prose, but with spreadsheets and ledgers. The Pope would have entrusted Falcone with the task of ensuring that every lira, every euro, was accounted for and used in service of the gospel. Falcone was a practical man, known for his simple lifestyle and his meticulous attention to detail. He saw the wealth of the Church not as a treasure to be hoarded, but as a resource to be prudently managed and deployed for the good of all. His appointment was a quiet revolution. It signaled a commitment to financial reform and accountability, ensuring that the material foundations of the Holy See were as solid and incorruptible as its spiritual ones. In a world often skeptical of large institutions, Falcone was to be the guarantor of the Vatican's temporal integrity, a vital and often underappreciated role. While cardinals manage diplomacy, doctrine, and finance, the papal Almoner performs the work that lies at the very core of the Christian message, charity. This individual is the Pope's hands and feet, the direct conduit of his personal charity to the poor, the sick, and the forgotten. In a move that touched the hearts of many, Pope Leo XIV appointed Archbishop Jean-Marc Dubois, a man who had spent the majority of his priesthood working not in grand cathedrals, but in the slums of Marseille and the refugee camps of Africa. He was a man who knew the faces of poverty firsthand. The papal Almoner, or the Elemosiniere Apostolico, is one of the few officials who retains his post during a papal transition, a testament to the uninterrupted nature of the Church's charity. Pope Leo XIV's formal confirmation of Dubois was more than a rubber stamp. It was a profound affirmation of his ministry. We can vividly imagine their first encounter as Pope and Almoner. The Pope would not have given orders, but would have asked, "Jean-Marc, show me where the need is greatest. Take me there, not in spirit, but through your work." It was a charge to make the papacy's compassion tangible. Dubois was a man of action. He was known for personally driving a van through the streets of Rome at night, distributing blankets, food, and a kind word to the homeless who sleep in the shadow of St. Peter's Basilica. His appointment was a living sermon. It declared to the world that the papacy of Leo XIV would not be an institution isolated behind ancient walls, but one that actively sought out the suffering and marginalized. Through Archbishop Dubois, every act of charity, every meal served, every bill paid for a struggling family became a direct and personal act of the Pope himself, a powerful symbol of a church that serves. The liturgy is the public prayer of the Church, a sacred drama where heaven and earth meet. The master of papal liturgical celebrations is the director of this sacred theatre. responsible for ensuring that every Mass, every canonization, every solemn procession is conducted with reverence, beauty, and theological precision. For this intricate and visible role, Pope Leo XIV selected the relatively young Monsignor Lorenzo Vianni. Vianni was a scholar of sacred liturgy, but also a man with a deep appreciation for art, music, and the power of symbolic gesture to elevate the human spirit. The choice of Vianni was significant. He was known to believe that the liturgy should be noble and beautiful, but never opulent or ostentatious. It should draw the faithful into the mystery, not distract them with the personality of the celebrant. We can almost hear the discussions between the new pope and his master of ceremonies, poring over ancient rubrics and modern needs. Pope Leo XIV would have sought a man who could balance the timeless traditions of the Church with a pastoral understanding of the modern pilgrim, ensuring that the ceremonies were both majestic and accessible. Vianni's task was to choreograph the sacred, from the placement of a candle to the choice of a hymn, from the vestments worn by the Pope to the flow of the Easter Vigil. Every detail was under his purview. His appointment signaled a desire for a liturgy that was reverent, beautiful, and deeply prayerful. It was a move away from any form of liturgical sloppiness or self-indulgence. Under Monsignor Vianni's guidance, the great ceremonies of the Vatican were to become what they were always meant to be, not mere performances, but profound encounters with the divine, windows into the eternal. And so, with these 5 key appointments, the foundations of Pope Leo XIV's pontificate were laid. Each choice, the statesman, the guardian, the steward, the compassionate hand, and the master of ceremonies, was a carefully placed stone, creating a structure of leadership that was at once traditional and forward-looking, global in its reach, and deeply personal in its charity. These were not just administrative decisions. They were the first chapter in a new story, revealing the character and vision of the man who now sat on the chair of St. Peter. The ecosystem of the Vatican had its new leaders, and the Church and the world watched to see what would grow from this new beginning. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the initial bold moves of Pope Leo XIV. Exploring these moments of transition allows us to understand the immense forces that shape our world. If you found this journey as fascinating as I did, I would once again encourage you to subscribe to the channel and to enable notifications. This ensures that you will be the first to know when we embark on our next exploration into the captivating corridors of history. Your curiosity and support make these stories possible. We are deeply grateful for your time and your attention. Until we meet again, continue to look closely at the world around you, for it is filled with remarkable stories waiting to be told. Thank you for watching.